Hey, 8th grade, it's Mrs. Crosswhite. I'm just going to walk you guys through the last part of our Zentangle lesson. So what's going to happen is the Zentangles you practiced last week, you're going to apply those to a final drawing this week. Now, this drawing is going to be slightly different because you're actually going to combine all those little patterns and put them together to make one final drawing. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be showing you examples of two different Zentangles. So they will be up to you which ones you want to use, which direction you want to go in, because you're not using mine as a copy, of course. So this is one example of a direction you could go in with Zentangles. You could start with the drawing of a recognizable object. So for example, mine's an animal, a horse. And then you can apply Zentangle patterns within that outline. Now, the only big requirement is that the object or outline takes up a majority of the page. So this horse does take up a majority of the page, even though this is not completed. I would not say this is a completed Zentangle because there's still a lot of empty space. Now, some people have asked me questions about what their Zentangles can look like. So what I wanted to show you, and I'll show you in my example, is that some Zentangle patterns are just repeated patterns, and sometimes they change slightly. So for example, this one goes from small to slightly larger, whereas other Zentangle patterns can be just repetitive shapes, such as in here. Other ones are a little bit more recognizable. They're like organic shapes, almost like petals. So it's really up to you how these patterns flow. Now, the other option you have for your final is to do something more abstract. So it doesn't need to be a specific object. It can simply be one that fills the page. So for this one, for example, I have different patterns that fill up in different areas. So in each one, I just kind of sectioned off different areas. And what I did was I actually drew different lines and then did a different pattern in each one. This is another option if you're not really comfortable with drawing representationally, which means drawing realistically. So what you guys are tasked with doing is taking those Zentangle patterns in your sketchbook. Now, you can come up with new ones. You don't have to use the ones that you came up with last week or you practiced last week. And you can actually look up different ones. Is taking this page in your sketchbook, using these patterns to create a final drawing. Now the final drawing, like I said, does need to take up a majority of the page, and you need to have a minimum of 7 different patterns. So there needs to be at least 7 different ones. You don't have to use the ones from your sketchbook. It's just there in case you need it for reference. Now, some people have asked what materials they can use. So I'm here to explain that part to you as well. If you don't have, say, like a fine tip Sharpie, ballpoint pens work fine. You can use a ballpoint pen. And people have also asked about color. So they'll have like one pen, but it's a different color. It's not black. That's fine too. You can use different colors. I'm not opposed to that. If you actually saw in the horse one, there actually is small amounts of color within that Zentangle, which I'll show you again before I finish the video. So small amounts of color are perfectly fine for your final. But what I want you to take away from this is this. Zentangles are meant to be kind of relaxing. They're repetitive scribbles. So it's like the little doodles you do in the corner of your worksheets when, you should be listening to what's going on. And that's what this should be. It shouldn't be stressful. It shouldn't be over the top. It should be a fairly relaxing process. So however your Zentangle turns out, we really just want to make sure that it's a soothing experience as opposed to something more stressful. Now, you are going to be assessed on craftsmanship, which you're going to see on your grading rubric, and the grades will be pretty much the same. This will be a summative, and your sketchbook page was a formative. So that part hasn't changed. So sketchbook pages, even though we're doing finals in our sketchbook now, that one will still fall under that. Now, if you guys have any questions, make sure you email me, okay? And remember, we do have mandatory check-ins on Mondays. So if you're watching this early, when I send it out, Monday at 1:15, we have a Google Meet where we're going to check in with each other, and it shouldn't take very long. I'll go through the Google slides, make sure everybody's on the same page, and you can spend the time to work on it then. And remember, you get a whole week. So if you have any questions in the meantime, make sure you email me, okay? I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you're enjoying the Zentangles.